Hello and welcome to the Strong Day podcast. Thank you for coming on. Well, today we are discussing emotional trauma. We're talking about dealing with it. We're declaring war on emotional trauma once and for all, chasing it out, moving it on. So today's podcast, we're looking at focusing, keeping our connections to the power within ourselves, the power we have found through the divine, the God, or the Almighty. We're removing step by step through our journaling exercise and through our declarations and our observations. And face on, we are chasing out emotional trauma that has been there for years or maybe for a short time, but it's plaguing, it's unwelcomed, it terrorizes sometimes and has an impact on our psychological, on our emotional well-being, and also affects the physiology in many situations. So today you're welcomed, so please stay on and listen as we go along, or watch if you're watching on a video. Either way, welcome to the podcast and thank you for joining in, and we encourage you to listen to the end to get the full sense of what benefit this podcast will serve for you, and for anyone that you want to pass this on to as well. You're welcome to do that, and keep on watching, and thank you. Welcome to Strong Day podcast. This is the Virtuous Mountain Woman channel. This is our podcast, Strong Day podcast. We've not podcasted for a while, and it's been for many reasons. And one reason has been lack of time and courage. But we're going to jump back right in today and just remind us what the Strong Day podcast is about. The idea that came to me was that Strong Day, I feel stronger in the day when I've started the day in prayer. I've focused or meditated on something, and I'm thankful. I give thanks for something or many things. And the other thing is to read something that will inspire me, and then exercise. Those are the 5 things we discuss in Strong Day podcast. Today's podcast, I want to look at something that's been happening to me for many years, and I've been looking at it and meditating on it. And so today's focus is on reading and meditating and reflecting. I want to talk about something that Eckhart Tolle talks about. I've listened to the teaching for many years, and it's taken many years for me to fully understand. And it is about the pain self, or the painful memories that turn up in our lives. How do we deal with these debilitating, painful experiences that turn up in our lives? It attacks our mental health. It attacks our sense of well-being. It attacks our confidence, and whichever way it turns up. So I'm just going to talk that through, and hopefully that you can make some connection with it, resonate with it. It has some meaning to you, and you can use it in your life to encourage you. So the pain self turns up maybe in things that people say. It triggers something in you, some pain. And it's often not a pain that you could say it's just gentle. It's debilitating. It brings you in to a part of your life where someone has, just rubbished whatever you've done. Whatever you've done, your kindness has been turned around and not recognized. Someone that you've had a business partnership with for many years and you thought you were doing really well has turned around to not be interested, cannot see anything good in your previous collaborations. Everything's just not good. It's turned itself around. So when I sat down and I journaled about pain self, I was reminded of the fact that a word could be said, and it's far reaching, and then when you bring that point up and you say, this is how I feel, it's like, you feel? You have some relevance? Oh. Or, really? No one's really interested in what you think or what you say. Yeah, you were kind many years ago, but what relevance is that? So, there's a hollowness, there's a smile, there's a, oh, you're one of us, you're part of the team, you're part of the gang. But really, how you're treated, you know that you're not. And when you put your hand up and say, excuse me, hello, it's like, you? Oh. Don't ruffle feathers. Don't upset anyone. Your point is not relevant. Okay, so pain self has the pain, it comes in and it triggers so strong that the self feels as if sometimes it's physiological. It has an impact on your it has an impact on your sense of self. It can actually make you feel as if you're having a heart attack. It can make you feel like you're hyperventilating, because the pain of the words or the images that person or that person's or that memory brings is so powerful. So how do you deal with this that shows itself up over and over again? There's a point where is there a point where it's going to stop? And one of the things that I thought about was like, oh, you can come to the table. It's a hollowness. You can come to the table, you can be a part of it, but you sit where we want you to sit. And all of that is symbolic, but it's also a part of the pain. It's part of the trigger. I'm hoping I'm not speaking in riddles. I'm hoping that this is making sense to someone who have been struggling with this type of pain for many years, like I was. And then something was triggered in me and I thought about the pain self. I started to journal about the pain self. That's what I started to do, journal about it. And then it came to my mind the scripture that says, the Psalms, you can have your own table. You don't have to be designated. Because the psalmist said, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runneth over. So it's like the Message Bible says, God makes a feast for you. He throws a party for you. You throw a party for yourself. And you enjoy that party. And you enjoy who you want to bring to that party. So you're not defined. And because you're not invited to a table, doesn't mean that you don't have a table. And the fact is, it feels as if people are giving you the scrap after they've eaten. Well, no. Because you can have a feast of your own. But how is it going to happen? When you're so debilitated, it comes over and over again, reminds you of your supposedly nothingness. So, very important for me is to think, now, what am I going to say and do about this continued situation? I think I begin to think more and more, how do I deal with this painful trigger? I think to myself, pain self the triggers, you're not welcomed. You're just not welcomed. In my body as pain, in my body as emotional trauma, you're not welcomed. No one invited you. There's no place for you here. But the pain self will say, well, I'm used to turning up. I know the triggers. I know the words that I use to get you going, to get you absolutely devastated. I know the words. But the answer is, you're not welcomed. You're not invited to come into my life and wreak havoc with my emotions. In regard to people who don't have any respect for me, people who won't give me even the time of the day. So the whole thing for me is that you're not invited, you're not welcomed here. So the thing is, who is going to fill that space? There's got to be something that's going to fill that space. And I thought of the Bible, and I thought of sometimes we say, oh, there's no God, there's nothing. But sometimes I think it's okay to acknowledge God, the Creator, and say, you created me. You created my emotions. You have control of them. Teach me. And the other biggest thing that came out from my journaling is to say, heal me. Heal me from the trauma of this triggering situation. Heal me because I'm worthy of a deep healing. But then the pain self says, well, yeah, right. But you've only been used. People have just used you. And you get a pattern of people using you all the time. But the thing is to go back and say, something began to really work in me as I began to pray about it. I began to say, but you were not used. You were a vessel. You were a vessel purposed to assist someone in that time, in that situation. So this whole idea of you're nothing and you're worthless now, you've had your use, you're not useful anymore, is to say, no. I was divinely placed in that situation, in that person's life, in that business situation at that time. And everything I did was worthy. Because it made an impact. And it made a positive change in that person's life or in that business situation or whatever. So the whole idea came to me is like, I'm a channel. I'm a vessel. So Francis of Assisi said, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Not just to pardon, but I give pardon. And so that when you're a channel, the ego cannot attach itself. Because when a vessel is used, and when you're a vessel and you're being used positioned for good, you're a vessel positioned for good, what is happening is that something powerful is coming through you, whether it's knowledge or kindness or a word or just what you do what you do. And at that time, it's necessary. It's powerful. It's impactful. And then I think sometimes what we haven't done when we're vessels who are divinely appointed and divinely positioned is that once we've finished and that situation is finished and we've completed that what is required of us, we don't stop and we don't pause and we say, just clean this vessel, cleanse this vessel, detach ego from all that we've done. Because if we don't detach ego, it's very easy later on for the pain self to come back and say to us, oh, you were just used for that. It's just usury. Well, it's not. When you've been divinely positioned and purposed to assist in a situation and to aid someone out of a terrible situation or circumstance, or to pivot a fantastic business deal that went really, really super duper well, it's not usury, because something channeled through you that power. And so what you should take from that position, I've realized, is not the ego of attaching myself to it. Aren't I good? I'm always this type of person who does this and that and the other. That's very, 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 makes you very vulnerable to ego. Because ego wants to attach. And with ego being attached, it's easier for pain self to come back and remind you of everything that you've done and how awful people are to you. And then the pain of rejection and pain of what you've done or what's been channeled to you being diminished or being seen as nothing be so hurtful and so traumatic. So you're constantly going back to these same people, not physically, but you're going back to these same people in your mind and in your thought life. You're seeking external validation. So external validation, seeking still to be loved, seeking to be recognized, seeking to be acknowledged, seeking to be affirmed. So this is one of the most powerful thing, I think, of destroying the pain self, is seeing the pain self for what it is. And when we can see it and examine it, I'm just using old paper here, so you see in the back of my old papers that I'm using, just nothing confidential, just about how to fill in the passport form. So how that comes into a podcast, I don't know, but because I'm using like markers for helping me to keep my path in my notes, and so that came to me was the whole thing of looking constantly for external affirmation. Well, can I encourage you to do something? Step back inside yourself and affirm your own self. So you say, well, how do I do that? Well, affirm yourself. Say, you know what? I'm a person that is positioned to be kind. I'm a person who's positioned to sort of just always know what to do. I'm a person who's positioned to be the one that people often come to for advice. And I give it willingly. So it's really important to recognize that is a very important part of acknowledging the pain. So the pain self, is that self. I think it's attached to the ego as well, but it stimulates you. It brings to recognition the things that you know, and it's factual. You've been hurt, you've been diminished, or people are trying to diminish you. People are doing this and that, but it's okay. But that's all external stuff, and seeking external validation. Where if we go in and we validate ourselves, not as someone that people uses, but as a vessel or a channel that is positioned strategically to assist people because you're emotionally intelligent. What could be more greater than that? And then when I was thinking about this and as I was journaling, the thing that came to me was, send God after this situation this pain self. Because in the Bible it says, perfect love cast out fear. So sometimes it's so debilitating, it's so tough, that humanly it's very hard to get over it. So I've decided to put my hand up and say, yeah, I do need God. I need God's grace. I need the God, the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit to go after that fear, that pain self that comes all over and over again. Send it on its way. Because the love of God, when God's love is so pure and so filling in my being and the whole sense of who I am, is overflooding and overwhelmed with the peace of God and the love of God. There's no space for the pain self to trigger, to remind me of the powerfully of the words that was used that made me feel so triggered. Remind me or you of the images that come up each time in our childhood or wherever that may be. I mean, for me, I've got to say I had an amazing, phenomenal childhood. Been raised in Jamaica, in the country, in the bush, with poor people who are deemed as poor but fantastic, subsistence farmers. So that means fantastic. So I say, well, trigger me then, God, with one of those wonderful memories. For you, your memories may not where that goodness be, but you could ask God, find a word for me. Give me a word that would assist me when this thing comes on me so hard, and also help me to grow. And I think it's so powerful to see ourselves as people who are channels rather than people who are being used. And also, if we see ourselves as channel, we something passes through us which is good and gives to another human being. And it's not about us being people who are just used and pushed aside. Because if God can position you for something good once, He can depend on you to be positioned again for something else that's great. So I think it's really, really, really important just to acknowledge that and look at the pain self in a very different way. For me, it's been so healing. And the journaling, the writing of it, and if you don't write, maybe draw, and maybe if you're a person that likes to have a walk, just walk in the quietness and confidence will come an inner strength. So this podcast, I'm so enthusiastic for it, and I'm thinking there might be a part 2 because there's so much of it. And you can also share, below what you think. If you have had a situation with a pain self, maybe you didn't recognize it as pain self before, but now that you know it is. And before I leave, one of the biggest things for me that I've found when dealing with the pain self is that I don't identify with it. Because if I'm not welcoming it, I'm not giving it space. Yes, the traumatic words, the triggering words, the hurtful words. It's a bit like someone with a bow and arrow knowing exactly where to point the bow, exactly where to come at you, and where to put the poison on the bow and take it right to where it's going to consume you. So you go,